Today is the start of something very new. We are going to start with the Quality Chess India show, and in that, we are going to review books that we have with us, some really amazing books in the world of chess. And today is the first show, and there's no better person to invite to this show than the founder of Quality Chess himself, Jacob Aagaard. And let's get him over here. Jacob, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Jacob, this is the first show that we are beginning, the Quality Chess India show, and we thought it would be wonderful to have you and to discuss your book, which is this one, which I'm holding right in front of me, Thinking Inside the Box.
Yes, when I say my book, I mean that one, but of course I've written about 25 others.
But the name of the book is something which we should begin first.
Okay, so first of all, it is a reaction to that people are always looking for exception to things, and exception to the rules and creativity and so on. And I was thinking from the perspective of helping people to improve their chess, which is my goal. Actually, getting to know the fundamentals is and master them is much more important. So therefore, thinking inside the box. But the way the title came about was there was a big billboard commercial for muesli that I saw in Glasgow, and it's Jordan's muesli, and they had changed the packaging of their muesli. But they also said that they had changed the muesli a little bit, so they were thinking inside the box. But I realized that as a metaphor, I could use it for a lot of things. We have some positions where we should make an intuitive decision, where somewhere we should think deeply, where some positions where we should just look for options, and it's different tools, so to speak, so to say. And in that way, the box is also a toolbox. The famous saying is, for the man with a hammer, every problem is a nail. But reality is that not every problem is a nail in the world, and the hammer doesn't solve everything. So we need more tools in our toolbox, so that's also part of it. And there's a few more dimensions to it, but essentially it's just ripping off a muesli commercial, and I thought it sounded cool.
If there's one book in which I have my picture in it, it's this one. Yeah. So if I always tell any person who comes to this book that you must buy it on page 3. If they go to page 3, there's a picture of me, you, and Amruta.
What happened? I was struggling finishing the book. I was basically a little worried that it wouldn't be as good as I wanted it to be, and I was struggling finishing it. And I decided, okay, I know what I'll do. There's a book tour of Asia that I wanted to do for a long time. I'll book it, and then I'll have to write the book and finish it on time. Of course, what happened is I booked the book tour and I didn't finish the book on time. So I have photos from the book tour in the book, which is bizarre, but somehow works.
Well, it's the first time when someone went on a book tour without having completed the book.
But we have to say the book tour was very successful.
Yeah, that's true. You use so much of the material from your trip in the book. But can you tell us about something about this book tour? How was the experience? Because it was really very adventurous and at the same time quite packed with a lot of action.
Well, it was a scary thing to do. We went to 12 cities in 27 days. Well, that is, the last 3 days I went on my own to Tehran. So you only joined me for 11 cities, but we did Kuala Lumpur twice, so that sort of compensates. But we did 12 days in India, and then we went Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, Thailand, Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur again, and then I went on my own to Tehran on the way home.
Yeah.
And we met far more than 1,000 people, Every day was an event. Every day had a different experience. We taught chess to like 8 people in Hong Kong and 160 in the Philippines. Every day was different. And you were on the phone constantly, and Amrut and I were making jokes all the time. It was great fun. And I sort of physically, I knew it was going to be very difficult. So I was on a very strict diet regimen before it. I worked out about 20 hours a week. And I was in really good physical shape for the trip. And after I came home, 2 weeks later, I went running with my youngest daughter. And it was a little bit windy, and I got a cold. And since then, I've just gone from illness to illness. And I think simply it was too much. So that's why we're not doing anything as crazy as this before next year.
Okay. Maybe a trip again would be good for your fitness.
But this time, we're planning on going to Africa.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll come to the book now. I have the.
Are you joining us?
Sorry.
Are you joining us?
To Africa.
Yes.
Oh, it would be amazing. Which countries are you going to? Have you planned it yet, or?
Well, we have ideas, but I don't want to mention any countries in case they don't want us. Mm-hmm. Or if someone else desperately wants us, then I don't want to exclude anyone. But we're basically, the idea is we start on the east coast of Africa. I could say that I really want to go to Egypt and start there, and then the next stop would be Tanzania. These two are sort of fixed, and then I'm hoping to we go all the way down towards the south. Some of the southern ones, like maybe on the way up the west coast, we go something like Angola and Ghana. I don't know. Now I'm probably mentioning all the countries anyway, but that's sort of the idea. I think this time around we're not so keen on the Democratic Republic of Congo and a few other countries which, sadly for the people there, are not very stable. But the idea is to go to a lot of places and not lose too much money, sort of like the tour of Asia.
Yes.
I think we managed to keep you at break even, but Peter and I we've been paid a few thousand dollars.
That's true. I mean, for
it's about the love of chess,
Yes, and one thing which I would like to tell the viewers, but I think I would say it at the end of the show, is something about your work ethic and the amount of work you did. But first, I would like to talk about the book here. I have it in front of me, and if you see the index, there are a few topics, and one of the topics which I think Jacob is very important, and you have been speaking about it everywhere, is 4 types of decisions. And do you think that this is one of the key elements of this book, or what would you say it is?
Oh, the book, the whole book is, I've tried to put every idea I have in it into the book. Some of them are mentioned very, very briefly. Like the 3 questions, I don't really go into it very much in the book because I think I covered it quite well in positional chess, positional play in the same series. And but it is mentioned. The 4 types of decisions, I already covered that in strategically as well, but I cover it here again. And I just want to go through what they are and the reason of them, and then they are a cornerstone of my thinking. So it's a model. And the thing with models is they're never accurate. The map is never the territory. And you can explain things in many different ways. And the question is whether or not it makes, in this case, playing chess easier for you or not. Mm-hmm. It helps you improve. So I have 4 types of decisions in my model, where the first one is automatic decisions. It's positions where there is seemingly only one move. The second is simple decisions. It's positions where the difference between the best and second best move is maybe not great, and you can play many different types of moves. Then we have critical moments, or positions where the difference between the best and second best move is great. And then we have strategic moments, which is positions which are very complex. So the idea of having these four different types of decisions is there are four different approaches to follow. So in the case of automatic decisions, positions where there's only one move, we should check, is it really so? The most important skill in chess to develop is the ability to see the interesting options. I know that some people will be listening to this will have a rating less than 2,000, and for them, I would say there's other things which are really important as well, but even their tactics is very important. But I'm talking about players who are trying to get towards a title level in general, or just like to play against title players. Seeing the relevant options is the number one skill in chess, as far as I'm concerned. And when we talk automatic decisions, there are so many times when people make an automatic move. In the book, there's one example. There's a game between Giri and Hare Krishna, where Giri just recaptures automatically, and if you just looked for an alternative, he would have won the game very quickly. And I know that because one of my friends showed me the position played live while they were playing, and he asked me, what would you play here? And because I looked for options, I saw the winning idea very, very easily. It was not difficult, but if you don't look for it, you don't find it. So then simple decisions is what I covered in positional play. It's positions which we have a lot of in our games, where we have to make a decision reasonably fast, not to get in time trouble, and to have time for later in the game. And we sort of have to feel the options. And I have a system based on 3 questions, which can be used to help access this. These 3 questions are: where are the weaknesses? What's the opponent's idea? And which is the worst place piece? And in this case, worst place piece is a piece with least function. It might even be in the way of other pieces getting into the game. And this is one way of doing it, but most players will go by feeling. And the idea of these questions is a training method to develop a better intuition for chess. Always look at these important elements. The critical moments is an important one because these are positions where the difference between the best move and the second best move is likely to be very high. And I'm not saying afterwards when you check with the computer and there was something you never realized was there. I'm saying during the game you have a feeling like this is the moment, like all my pieces are ready, I should do something. Or, ooh, I had an option here, it's quite complicated. Or it could be, oh, I totally missed what he did there. Now the position seems quite sharp. There can be all kind of little triggers that can get us to a feeling of this is the moment where I need to calculate. And when you calculate, it's the opposite of the simple decisions. You don't want to guess. I like to compare it to a math test. You have to work it out accurately so you can come with the right answer. And this is surprisingly difficult for some people to do. So we then have the strategic moments, which is the 4th category. It's the strategic moments are positions which are very complex, and many simple positions you can turn into strategic moments by going very deep. And some players like to do that and develop this whole grand strategy for the game. I don't think it's very practical, and okay, there are many ways to play chess, but it's positions where you need to use general principles, calculation. You want to use these kind of positional evaluation tools I've talked about, pattern recognition. You want to use everything. It's the category for positions that are complex and don't have an easy approach. Which are actually quite fewer positions than you would think. For example, let's say it's the end of the opening phase. At this point, it's normally good to have a 10-15 minute think, trying to work out where do the pieces belong long term. How would I ever win this game? How would I ever lose this game? Which kind of pawn break should I try to get? What is my opponent's long pawn? You can imagine all these questions that are relevant. All these ways of looking at the position, and you can calculate variations and come out with positional outcomes. Strategic positions are, by definitions, each one is a world of its own. And that's definitely where a lot of chess is decided on high level, is these profound ideas about the game when it's played well. There are some players who don't really play like that, and there are some players who play like that, and it's very impressive. I never say there's a better style than another, because I just don't believe it. I think there's a better execution often. All styles have their natural advantages and disadvantages. It's like paper, rock, scissors. You cannot say either of them is better just because it beat another one. Paper is not better than the rock, because against the scissor, the rock does better. So, and the same thing with chess styles. I think everyone should sort of find where they feel comfortable and playing that way. And for some people, going deep early in the game and then later being in time trouble and calculate very fast is the way they like to play. Christoph, girlfriend. The guys play the candidate final. You cannot say it's an ineffective style. And then you have other players who like to be more technical and intuitive. Giri, Carlsen. You cannot also say that they play badly.
Yes.
Okay, I think I sort of went off in there.
Yeah, that was a very deep and well explained concept of the 4 decisions. But there's one thing also in the book, which is what is calculation, one of the chapters. And when I was on this trip and I heard you speaking, you had said that calculation is the art of seeing something that cannot be seen in an obvious way. I'm maybe not phrasing it correctly.
Slightly different. The thing is, when we all look at the board, and maybe you should put up the position I sent to you.
Okay.
Without this.
Yes, so it's on the board now. It's the game between Mareko Sandro, who's white, and David Navarra. It's white to play, yeah?
Yeah, so for me, the definition for calculation for most people is seeing a lot of moves. And I understand that is a normal definition, and you cannot say it's wrong, because language works the way that what people think something means, that is what it means. I thought about it, and I thought a more accurate definition would be helpful. So for me, the definition of calculation is finding the things we don't automatically see. And the thing is, you and I, when we look at the chessboard, we're probably not so different in strength. We will see different options to each other. And some options I will see automatically, and some options you will see automatically. And I will not see your options, you will not see mine. And some we will both see. And this is natural. If you think of the chessboard, in some way it's a mirror. We look at the board, and it reflects the chess that's inside of us. We see the patterns that we have seen a number of times that we recognize immediately. So it reflects the chess that's inside of us. The thing is, of course, that the chessboard is not a mirror. The chess has actually, it's not human at all. It's of course a human construct, but it has a logic and the rules of its own. And when we look at the board, it is important for us to see more options, as I was talking about before. And for me, calculation, the main thing is seeing the options we don't automatically see. You might intuitively get some dynamic ideas and variations and go through them, but it doesn't mean that they are necessarily very important. A friend of mine once said that 99% of the time he plays the move that he thought of first. And with him, it seems correct to me, which is I don't think he ever calculates well. And that was his main limitation. He understands a lot of things really well. And there's a lot of players who don't calculate well, who are not able to find things they don't automatically see. I don't think it means they have great intuition. I just mean well, it does mean that because the guy's clever. But it's also the limitation to their game. So part of the thing I do is help people become better at calculation, which starts with seeing the options. So in this position, I've shown you here, actually white missed a direct win.
Yeah, I think it's a good time for the viewers, if you are trying to think of this position, to just pause the video here, try to think what would you do here, think of the options, and once you find it, you can listen to Jacob talking about how to find the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, we can keep talking anyway, because some people won't have the ability to pause, so we can talk about something else without going into the solution right this moment.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
But you know, I do this little column for American Chess Magazine, which has the 4 types of decisions. And for the automatic moment, I use these kind of position of finding the options. This position here, like I'm now in Spain, and we did a training camp, and I actually showed this position, that's why I picked it out. I showed it to the participants here, and for some of them, strong players, maybe no longer at their peak, but at their peak in IM level, and one guy also going towards IM, they didn't see the right options. It's not easy.
It's
seeing things you automatically see. It's not easy. You know, there's a chapter in the book covers this. Simple, not easy.
Yeah, it's the first one. Yeah, simple but difficult. The first chapter.
That is what chess is. It's easy to explain things. If people have a basic playing level of chess, you can explain almost everything.
Yeah.
But to actually do it is a different thing.
Well, I think,
for example, there were some suggestions of bishop d2, and then they didn't see that black has to move c6, so that the knight can come to d5 and the queen can protect the knight on a5, and black is not in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, maybe white's a little better, but I don't even remember what white played. I think it was h3.
Yeah, h3.
Yeah, I can't see the board now, but I remember the position.
Yeah, I mean, white played h3 in the game, and then bishop d7 and bishop d2 with a small edge. But he had a stronger move than h3.
Yeah, there's a much stronger idea. And the way we actually train this is sitting down and looking at the board, looking for ideas. And it's really hard. That's why people are not very good at it. It's because it's difficult. And it sounds so simple, you know, like I have an affection for one-move solutions. If you can give an exercise, it's really difficult that has a one-move solution. I gave one position, which, okay, I will not share this here, but a positional exercise where it was almost impossible to see what white should play. There was no obvious move. but you had to understand what the opponent wanted to play, and it was just a very simple thing for black. Black wanted to push a pawn forward, so later on he had fixed the weakness. And we have to desperately avoid this, or all the games are lost. And it's a one-move solution. So we have to block this by moving our pawn forward. And nobody solved it here at the camp, and I've shown it to others before, and one player solved it, and he's a 2650 Grandmaster, and he was not sure. He was like, I don't know, but I would play this, but I just don't know. And the game also was also GMs, and the guy didn't find the move. I have an affection for this, and also this position here is it's a one-move idea. If you see the idea, then the exercise is solved. So we'll give that in the end, and let's talk about something else meanwhile.
Okay, so we'll give the answer to this position at the end. There's one chapter in the book which is called Analyze Your Own Games, and I think this is one subject which everyone finds it difficult, and they're always looking for some kind of method to analyze their games because they're always confused. Does this chapter address this problem?
Well, it addresses the importance of it. I also give my ideas, but a method is maybe. Well, I have some ideas I can share now. Which my approach to this is when you play a game in a tournament. If you have a chance to debate it with the opponent afterwards, that's very, very useful. Some people don't like to, but if you can debate it with the opponent, maybe analyze it, it'd be great. People do this less than they used to, but I think it's missing a chance to see a very important angle of what people see during the games and what ideas there are, and the computer will not be able to do this for you. So you after the game and after analyzing with the opponent, you should open your chess-based program, and you should put in your game, and you should put in the things you were thinking during the game, and the things you talk to the opponent about. If there's something you desperately need to know what the computer thinks after this, you can turn it on. But really, during the tournament, you have enough problems. You don't need to analyze your games in full. Some people like to do it, and it gives them extra energy. And for some people, most people, I think, it's an energy deficit, and then it's not a good thing during a tournament. After the tournament, you should analyze the games. What you do is you have your starting point, which is what you saw during the game, what your opponent was suggesting, what you analyze together, all this human input. You have some ideas about how the game maybe was. Then you turn on an engine and you see what it thinks. And then, it will have different opinions than you have. And then this is where spacebar monkey often comes in. People press the spacebar a few times and say, oh, that was better. And that's it. No, the reason why I say monkey is because, like you have these things that the monkey does something and then it's given a nut, or the bird pushes something and is given a treat automatically. So these reward things. And we're the same, we push the spacebar and a decent move comes, and it gives these serotonin release and so on. And it's very easy to do that, but first of all, you have your ideas of how the game was. So if there are things you thought during the game, you want to find out if the reality is not so, why not? Then there are the things that the computer says are strong. Is it actually true? Should you believe it or not? You should investigate. You should use the computer as an analysis partner, not as an oracle. Yes, it suggests very strong moves, but it doesn't mean it's always right. And in many positions, when it's like 0.2 difference, there may be suggesting something that was wholly impractical, and you would have to find all these extraordinary moves to be able to play this way. Or you could play like you did, which might have been much more intelligent. We have to remember that the engines we use are counting forward, so they make some evaluation based on a few moves ahead. While if we have the F0 approach, which is much more like the human approach, which is like, what are the likely outcomes after this continuation? And some continuations from a human perspective is, what are the outcomes if I play these moves suggested by the computer? I will never, ever, ever find all these moves. I will lose. So that would not have been a good way to play. You want to try to find out how you could have made the decisions that you think you should have missed. Like, some decisions will just be very difficult, and you expand your understanding of chess by understanding why these are the good moves. Some decisions, you're like, okay, that was simple. Okay, maybe it wasn't easy, but simple. I could have seen that. I could have done that. And then you should think about, how would I be able to find this another time? Now, something I also like to do is analyze my games from a whole tournament. Not that I really play any anymore, but when I did. And then I go through what are the types of mistakes. And everyone will have a different type of mistake. One of the most amusing I came across talking to someone recently is he found out that he avoids variations where he has many options. He prefers variations where he has only one option. I don't think that's a good strategy. He's a very, very good player, you know. But you know, when he told me and realized this, and he was not immune to the irony of it.
Right. Okay.
Actually, he's really funny. But you know, sometimes when we have to explain humor in chess to other people, it's very difficult. There's an inbuilt level to how funny it gets.
Yeah. Great.
So should we take people out of the misery with this position finally?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's.
I just want to say something about that first. There is what we call tactical targets. We have two unprotected pieces. We have the bishop on g4 and the knight on b4, and that should be a huge hint. And maybe half of the people who tried to actually solve the position, and a quarter of the people who didn't, they now see that, oh, bang, bang. It's like a billiard ball. Just go to the middle and then go to the side. So white here can win with queen e4, attacking the bishop. And then on the next move, queen d4 and trapping the knight.
Yep.
There will always be complications. Black will try to find something messy. The game will go on. But it's essentially 1-0.
Yeah, it's just clearly better for white. Very nice position, quite unusual.
So it's quite good for white. Yeah, it's a nice position.
Yes, and yeah. So once we are done with this position, Jacob, I would say that we almost seen few of the things in this book. Today morning, I was actually reading one of the chapters which was towards the end, and it was not written by you but by your by Nicholas Nitrilis about advanced engine management.
Yes.
And I found that chapter to be extremely useful. There were so many insights into how you can use your engine to prepare and to analyze your games and so many different things. I think it was a great chapter.
Yeah, he's a big expert on this. So he's working for in IT. He's not in chess. He's in IT. Of course, his chess abilities are, especially with working with openings and software, so are great. Which is why he's been like coach of the Danish national team and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, no, this. I couldn't write about that, so why not have someone who actually could write well about that too? Yeah.
So in this book, which is nearly 400 pages, and I have that. It's one of the thickest books of quality chess.
No, not even close. Not even close.
No.
No. I think our thickest book is 720 pages.
I think maybe Cotronia's books are much thicker than this.
But Cotronia's the first one on the King's Indian. I think that's 708, and the King's Gambit is 720.
Wow.
Or it's the other way. But some of Nagy's books are more than 400 pages. We are just finishing the book Sicilian Manor now, which will be more than 400. And I think when you say nearly, I think actually the book's 408.
Yeah, there are 398 pages which are numbered, but then there are around 10 more pages towards the end that do not have a number. So yeah, you added.
Yeah, well, we have to pay for the printing cost. That's what I remember.
Sorry, it's 408 are numbered, and then there are still some more pages from I think calculation book which are included in my copy. So just one of your other books which they have put in as an excerpt.
Oh, I think that will be maybe a paperback version then.
Yeah.
There was a few changes from the hardback to the paperback version.
Okay.
It's one of the great things with not doing them at the same time.
Right. So one last thing which I want to know is if someone does go for this book, how should he be studying it? Like, is there some way like you should start from the beginning to the end of the book, or you can just open any chapter and go through it? What would your suggestion be?
I would recommend actually reading it more than once. And this is not something I would recommend with many other books. But in case of this book, then I put so many ideas in it that it will be they will just pass like that. And I think reading it to get a general feeling of it is a good idea. I think it's reasonably entertaining and interesting. But I know people who, grandmaster level players who get in and out of the book and reading it regularly to try to get really under the skin of some of these ideas. And I try to put everything into the book. Normally, I try to take a few ideas and really get the reader to understand them. But this book, I did it the other way around, which is I took as many ideas as possible, and then I sort of left the reader to work on his own. It is part of a series. The Grandmaster Preparation series is 6 books. So this is the textbook, and then there are 5 individual books, which is calculation, positional play, strategic play, attack and defense, and endgame play. Mm-hmm. And I often get asked of the order to study these books. I think reading Thinking Inside the Box first, or together with starting working with the exercise books, is a good idea. And then the best order is probably calculation, positional play at the same time, strategic play and attack and defense at the same time, and endgame play at the end. Or you could sort of like overlap a little bit. That's probably ideal. But when we're talking about ideal, we're talking about maybe 2-3% better than what for most people is a very, very useful way of studying the books, which is whatever you want to look at, go for it. You cannot study a chess book, and if it's a book with value and you put real effort into it, you cannot study a chess book without getting something out of it. Maybe if you're like perfect, you can get a bit more. But for example, I got a little bit unfit because of illnesses and too much travel and stuff like that. And I don't need this, like you go online and Facebook and they bombard you with all these like eat, what kind of rapid are you, eat like the rapid you are, or whatever. All these specialized plans and so on. You don't need that. You need a treadmill and then a scary guy shouting run. The same thing with these books. The most important thing is study them in a way that motivates you. It's really the main thing. It's the main thing with any chess book. Some people like to go start, end, and they have sort of like, I need to finish it, or I do not feel comfortable. That's the intuitive. Other people, they like to just dip in and out of all kind of things and get something out of everywhere and maybe, never really finish anything. And they're comfortable doing that. And that's fine too. I think you should just do what motivates you and what you feel. And if you feel something isn't motivating for you and it's horrible, it's dreadful, try to find another way of doing things. So that's it. Also, I'm asked frequently what is the level of players that should be working with these books.
Yes.
So when I say level of players in Europe and I say level of players in India, it's not the same. Because in Europe, I would say 2200 and up for the 5 exercise books. Maybe positional play, you can start a bit lower, but for example, in-game play, it's 2300 plus. While thinking inside the box, you probably 16, 1800, you can read it. So if you just subtract maybe 100 or 200 rating points, then you have Indians, like 2100, 2000, 2100 for the books in general, and 2200 for in-game play.
Right.
I think inside the box, probably 1400, 1500. Okay. Because the ratings are not worth the same everywhere. By the way, we noticed that we're following this young man. I'm very bad at the names. This young man who has to be in a wheelchair because he's quite fragile, who is doing very well. Aditya something.
Aditya Mittal, yes.
Yes. So we were following him, and we were very heartened by the fact that he was doing so well and making iron norms. And we noticed that he was up to number 6 in the world in his age group. And we also noticed that makes him number 5 in the world number 5 in India in his age group. But actually, that was the interesting information there.
Yes. Tremendous amount of talent here, and what I would recommend to all of you right now is to get this book, Thinking Inside the Box. It's a very interesting one, and I think that Jacob has done a phenomenal job. In fact, I had promised the viewers that I would talk about your work ethic. So just to add about it, when I was on the trip with him and traveling to different countries where Jacob was giving his lectures, in the travel in between, he would open his laptop and he would start typesetting his book, or he was busy finding certain positions. And when someone would give him an interesting position in one of the lectures, the next day he would have added much more material to it, analyzed it at night, and then give it to the other students in the lecture. I mean, while Amruta and me were both almost dead with tired and dead, he would be doing all sorts of things, and not to forget playing blitz with all the young kids out there. So Jacob, it was very inspiring to see you work like this.
I think I should say, by the time we reached Singapore, which was around day 20 maybe of the trip, you and Amruta, you overslept for the lecture, which started at 7:30 at night.
Yes, I remember that.
And there, I was, because I started every lecture with this joke of, I haven't slept for a month, and if I fall down, don't call an ambulance, just call the nearest hotel. But in Singapore, that didn't work because I was literally given the lecture right on top of my room. So we were already there. So I prepared a different joke, which was, I would like to introduce members of my travel team who have taken time off for their day job as unnamed cast members of The Living Dead. But you weren't there. So you really looked like zombies at the end.
Yeah, it was really tough, but at the same time, very rewarding.
You need to show the photo from the Philippines of
Amruta sleeping.
Break from her duties.
Definitely, I'll add it. I'll add that photo in this video. But Jacob, thanks a lot. And one question which is on the minds of everyone is, which is your next just independent book? I know you're working with Boris Gelfand on the 3rd part of his series.
Okay, so
okay.
So that's my Kallia, my girlfriend, my partner, my personal assistant, my friend, I love.
But why was she laughing so hard?
Who knows?
No, you have to reveal it.
I think I should be professional and say you should wait and see.
Okay. But no hints, yeah? No opening book, middle game, end game book. What is it about?
Quiet. Quiet woman, quiet. Maybe I'll write a guitar book. Who knows?
But when does it come out roughly? Which year? This year or?
Quiet. God. The problem is partly that Kallia is booking me to countless things, and then I'm booking myself to even more. So this year so far, we live in Scotland, so we went on a weekend trip to Malaysia. Then we went to India, and then we were home for a week before going to Spain, where we are now, except that we made a quick decision to go 3 days to Iceland. We're sort of a little bit busy, and I'm not finalizing things, but I have about 20 half-written books.
Oh, 20 half-written books. My God.
Yes. Emphasis on half.
Well, I think we have to wait for a few years and everything will come out.
I am, when we get to September, I'm sort of wanting to have some time where we don't go anywhere and I can sit and I can finish a lot of books. But the next book will probably be finally, because you have seen the test print of this, but just from scratch, learn the basics.
Yes.
Will finally come out in, I think, like 2 months at most.
Okay.
We have reworked it so many times, and I have a partner helping me in it, but this project will be very important. Also, I'm quite far in the work with Boris Gelfand, and a third of that book is written, and all of it is recorded. The way we do it is sort of like this, what we're doing now, and we look at the board analyze together, and then I later write it and add things, the way these books are written, and they're quite far. I just need time to sit down and type it out, and yeah, then there's a lot of things coming.
Sure.
Also, I have a book coming, which is quite demanding, so it might not be the next one, but it's going to be called A Matter of Technique, which is about how we avoid winning positions. It will not be actually a manual, because I don't think that's something people want to learn. There's enough talented people out there. And it famously, the first chapter will be called What is Wrong with Anishgiri, which he was not supposed to know, Sagar, so I don't know why you told him. Well, the last chapter will be about him as well. But that chapter is written, and I think it's really good. And there's always people who are like, why do you have to attack him? I'm not attacking him, because what's wrong with him is that he's human. On the contrary, I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we saw from, people should go to YouTube and see all the great things he did with you, just for the love of chess, and because he's you're a fantastic human being. All the great things he did, the interviews did with you during the Olympiad.
Yes.
It's such a giving and generous person. So what's wrong with him? Not much. But that's part of the, like, if I don't want to mention all the top players, but there's some of them where if you had it like them, it would really hurt them in their soul. But for him, it's like, oh, that's interesting, I would guess. I don't know. I haven't asked him. I did ask him, he was commenting on Chess 24, and I thought cheekily I would ask him, would you write the foreword for my next book? And I knew that he knew what the title of the first chapter is. So I would see how he reacted. He was like, I don't know, I want to see the book first.
Well, we all want to see that book coming out. Thanks so much, Jacob.
No, you don't, not really.
Yeah, but thank you so much for doing this. You are in Spain and you have a very important training session and you're doing so much. So thanks for taking out time. It was wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Next time in Mumbai.
Yes, for sure.